Well, good morning, everyone. Here we are back again. Hey guys, I was on a Disney cruise. It was phenomenal last week. And so now I'm back and I would love to just talk with you guys today as we wrap up this 2022-2023 season.
Sounds good. Welcome back.
Yeah. Hey, Jed, have you ever been on a Disney cruise before?
I have not. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law have, and they love it. They swear by them. But from what I've been told, they are quite expensive. So,
Except during this period of time right now, right after Christmas break and the lull right now before spring break, they dropped the price significantly.
Ooh.
And it's actually a lot better.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad you got a good deal. But yeah,
Have
I've heard it's great.
Have you ever been on a cruise, Jed?
Yes, we went on our first cruise last year. Royal Caribbean, loved it. In fact, we are going again this summer. So looking forward to that. And then we're doing Universal though a little bit later. So we've been to Disney. My kids are a little older now, so we've kind of done I think we went to Disney maybe 3 times. So always loved our experience.
I feel like we've been to Disney every year, but I was looking at Carnival Cruises, 4 days to Mexico, $180 a person.
Wow, that's pretty cheap, man. Yeah. No, we had a blast. We went on one of the larger Royal Caribbean boats, and I was so impressed. I mean, there was so much to do, and everybody had something to do. So we had a great time.
Mm-hmm. The only issue that we had 2 of the days, the weather was terrible. So then we get a call right early in the morning from the captain saying, hey, we were supposed to be over at the cave, our private island, all that stuff. We're canceling. So everyone's on the boat today. Wow. Just even getting through lunch and everything like that it was just so crowded. That was the only frustration that I had.
Oh, yeah. What can you do?
Yep. Hey, today as we wrap up is a little bit, I want to talk a little bit about a couple of different things. But before I do, did you guys hear the story about Josh McDaniel and Jim Irsay?
No.
What happened?
Oh, okay.
No.
The reason why Josh McDaniel decided after he signed the contract to be the coach of the Indianapolis Colts, reneged on it to the point where his agent fired him. So then Dan Dakich of ESPN over Indiana was telling us, sharing with Waddle and Sylvie what happened. His Josh McDaniel's wife did not like the fact that Jim Irsay came to visit the home after he signed the contract, and he sat and used the washroom and sat in their toilet for over an hour.
No.
She thought he was the weirdest guy, and she did not want her husband working for him.
That is kind of weird. If it was truly an hour, that's a little strange.
No, they were all saying he probably flooded the toilet and was too scared to come out.
Well, I'm pretty sure that Jim Irsay is not the most normal person in the world.
Yeah. You know,
So
I think when you make
what's he doing in there? Is he doing drugs? What in the world is he doing in there for an hour? Watching TV or what?
Yeah, I think when you make that much money, right, you get to do whatever you want.
Hey, they don't care. When you make that much money, you can do whatever you want. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, as we talk through, I want to talk a little bit about the Indianapolis Colts quarterback situation, all of those things. But actually, let me just start. If you were to look at, and we briefly touched upon it, who is your fantasy football MVP this year? Who would you guys say?
Well, before we say that, shouldn't we say congratulations to Jed for winning the Walter White League? And
congratulations!
You won some good money out of that one.
Yeah, and I won our work league too. So and that was even bigger money. So I did really good this year.
Great.
That's why I can go to Universal for spring break. So
okay, let me ask you a quick question with both of them. If you look back on the Walter White League and also your work league, was there a move that you made throughout the season or break that you caught, someone that you picked up that transformed your team to bring you to where you are?
It was in the draft. I think for me, both of those teams, the 2 keys were my wide receivers, right? So in the Walter White, I had Tyreek Hill and AJ Brown. And in my other league, I also had AJ Brown, but paired with Austin Eckler. And so I think the big thing was, so for me, Austin Eckler is the MVP of the season. But if you got Brown or Hill, you probably got them late, like either second or third or fourth round, which lets you get other folks up front. So I think that was kind of, and then, you know, there were a couple, like in the work league too, I picked up the running back in Seattle, who's the rookie.
Oh,
running
Kenneth
back.
Walker.
Yeah, I picked up Walker, which
Yeah.
was a great pickup.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, it was really it came down to the draft, which I know we talk about that. It isn't always that way, but it happened that way this year.
No, I'll tell you this: AJ Brown. AJ Brown was. I remember when actually AJ Brown and Tyreek Hill, right? I remember because you're trying to figure out, okay, like he's middle of the round, is he worth the pickup? And I remember when you picked him up, I was like, oh, that's actually a pretty smart pick because I can see him doing pretty well, you know. And then Tyreek Hill, no one knew what was going to happen, right? He dropped. I think he came after AJ Brown, but he had some great games for you early on to win you that season. Yeah.
And
exactly.
the thing with AJ Brown is a lot of times last year he was injury prone. And so a lot of times he was hurt. 2 years ago, he was outstanding. Big wide receiver, catches the ball, is able to run for yardage. But last year he struggled a little bit under Ryan Tannehill in his injuries. So people kind of forgot him. That's when you have to target some of those guys that people have forgotten to really be able to pick them up.
Yeah, I think that's the lesson is anytime there's a big name that moves to a new team, you know, that's an opportunity to, you know, maybe get someone at lower, you know, cost than would normally cost you. But I mean, the bottom line is you're taking a chance, right? I mean, you never know. It doesn't always work out.
Yeah, but Jed, congratulations. Seriously,
Yeah,
Walter White League is pretty competitive. You know?
Yeah.
I think I came in third, fourth, or one of those.
Yeah, no, you did well too. Actually, I was surprised, and it's a tough league. I mean, to make the playoffs in that league is really good. I've won it one time before, but it's a tough one.
Oh, by the way, speaking of tough leagues, going back to our fantasy basketball, I had one commissioner call. Oh no, yeah, one team owner called me yesterday and says, "We need to limit it to 3 dynasty players next year. Tommy's team is way too good, and we need to decimate that team."
Oh, Tommy's team is stacked, man. You have the top, you basically have 5 of the top 10 players, which is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it just, look, we've gone from 5 to 4. I'm okay with 4, but 3's killing me because Giannis, Steph Curry, Doncic, it'll be hard to pick. Kevin
Luka,
Durant,
man, yeah, Luka. You can't lose Luka, man. He's the guy.
All right, going back to also what we were talking about, it could also backfire you because remember in Detroit there was Kenny Galladay who had a down year, number 1 wide receiver in Detroit, signed with New York Giants, and we thought, okay, great. Terrible. He probably had less than 10 catches all year.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. Like sometimes it doesn't work out, you know, and there are things that I mean, for me, I think this year the big miss. I know we're going to talk about misses too, but Kyle Pitts, my goodness, I spent some pretty expensive draft capital on that guy, and I didn't get nothing out of that.
Yeah.
So that was bad.
I felt like a lot of times he's not on my list, but James Conner had such a great year. I thought he was a disappointment this year. Yeah. Speaking of that, fantasy football MVP, Jim. I mean, I think a lot of times the consensus is Austin Eckler. Would you disagree with that?
I would say so, right? I'm trying to think. I would think next year he's going to either him or McCaffrey's going to be 1 or 2, right? In terms of first pick. But yeah, Eckler is good. He's like he's a LaDainian Tomlinson clone. And so he's always going to get the points. San Diego's offense is going to go well, and it's going to go through him.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I also like to include in the evaluation of the MVP is how they did the last few weeks, right? Like, because those last few weeks, that's your playoffs and championship week. Yeah. And so he had a couple 2 touchdown games in the playoff run that really helped you. And then, for example, like Justin Jefferson, who was great, he laid an egg in one of the games. I think he had like 1 catch. So you know that's got to play into it.
Even Tony Pollard, you know, like Tony Pollard
he was
had a
good.
pretty good season, but towards the end of the season, he didn't do as well. You started seeing Elliott really kind of getting those double-digit points. But you're right, actually, because like you can have some of these really good players help you during the first part of the season, but when you need them, like you can't have a Justin Jefferson having 0 points.
Now, the one person that does stick in my mind week in, week out, from week 1 all the way to the end, Travis Kelce. Every single week, you knew that he was there.
Yeah, Kelce was great. I think that was definitely a good move. I would also say with the change in quarterback, George Kittle's really started to get a lot better. So that it's interesting how that quarterback play really impacted, how the tight ends did.
I do often wonder how long Kelce can last, because every time he's there, I'm very tempted to pick him up, right? Like in the second round or in that back half of the first round. But you're like, oh no, he's not going to do too well. But I'll be here pretty well. Yeah.
Player of the year on your team, Jim. I'll start with you. Player of the year on your team.
You know what? I wish it was Justin Herbert, because Justin Herbert was my quarterback for maybe like 4 of my teams, and I was high on him because I was like, Patrick Mahomes is too expensive, Josh Allen's too expensive, but he did not come through. I would say the most consistent player of the team would be Jalen Hurts. Like Jalen Hurts actually really came through for me because I had him, I would say, in quite a few of my leagues, and he actually produced every week for me.
Yeah. Jim, a side note, a lot of times Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow, who would you pick between those two?
Joe, you know what? I mean, going in right now, if you were to ask me now, I would pick Joe Burrow. Because if you looked at the second half production, he was number 2 quarterback in terms of points scored, touchdowns scored, and only Patrick Mahomes was better. And so if you look at the weapons, and maybe things will change next year, but if you look at the weapons and where they are, I would pick Burrows before Herbert.
Yeah, I like Burrow. Do you guys remember I had both Burrow and Kyler
Murray, right?
Yeah. And I picked Murray and dropped Burrow. I'm like, oh man, that was a mistake. So
guess who has Burrow?
Yeah. Actually, the guy that now is Justin Fields. You could have picked up Justin Fields off the waiver wire the first 2 weeks. So.
Yep.
Jed, who is your player of the year on your team?
Tyreek Hill. Yeah, Tyreek Hill was so consistent. I was, I said I got him late, and so he was definitely the guy for me across the board.
Yeah.
Look, for me, I was hoping at the beginning of the year it would either be Javonte Williams, Cam Akers, or J.K. Dobbins. That's who I was banking on everything on. But at the end of the day, for me, it was Jalen Hurts as well too. But I was hoping it would be Cam Akers. I was really hoping it was going to be Javonte Williams.
Nope. But Tom, think about it. If let's say your strategy worked, right? Dobbins and Akers by the end of the season was really good. I mean, those last couple of games, I mean, they both scored in the 20s, right?
But the problem is, if you had those guys, you probably would not have made the playoffs with those riding those guys.
Yeah. I don't know, but yeah, they were good. Cam Akers, I mean, I would say Cam Akers would warrant good consideration next year, given what happened towards the end of the season.
Yeah. He's actually considered my most disappointing player on the team. What about yours, Jed? The most disappointing player on your team?
There's a lot of them. I mentioned Kyle Pitts. I think even Dalvin Cook a little bit. I mean, he picked some up towards the end, but he wasn't.
He's getting old there.
He's getting up there. Derrick Henry came through, so not. Mike Williams again got hurt. I like Mike Williams when he's healthy, but again, he got hurt. I guess I might say Dalvin Cook wasn't as great as I was hoping he would.
Yeah, I think for me, because usually there's 2 players that I kind of focused on in quite a few of my drafts. This year was Jamar Chase and Kyle Pitts, and both of them I lost for weeks, right? Eventually I dumped Pitts. I would have been better if I got like Devontae Adams and and A.J. Brown, but I was very disappointed in Jamar Chase.
What about the most surprising player? Jim, I'll go to you. Most surprising player on your team?
Do you guys remember when we were making fun of David Best in our Dynasty League, how he spent like $80-something on Kenny Walker? And actually, I was like, that actually was a pretty smart move. Walker turned out to be a pretty good player, and most likely David is going to keep him for his Dynasty League.
Yeah. No,
I was like, that was actually not that bad of a move for him.
Yeah. Oh, there were so many surprises. I think Trevor Lawrence is another guy that I think you could potentially keep. He really turned it on the last
Fields from playoff.
Yep. Justin Fields. I really liked. I guess there's disappointments, but Travis Etienne. You had to hold. You needed to wait. But if you paid and waited for those first 3, 4, 5 weeks, I thought he really came through overall in the season.
Yeah. I mean, there were a lot of surprises that actually started coming up And again, the same thing happened this year with this draft, right? The first two, the first two picks, first three picks, those top tier players, they were not on my team towards the end. And so how you draft, how you use your free agency pool, how you use your waiver wire pickup, that really determines whether or not you win the championship at the end of the day.
Yeah. My most surprising player, I think you guys would probably agree with me, Christian Watson. Who thought he would be so good?
Yeah.
Christian Watson emerged as your number one receiver. Reminded me of Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams. Just kind of came out of nowhere. He just did well. The second one for me, Jamal Williams. I mean, I thought he would be 1 yard line, get a touchdown. He actually being there every single week in my lineup because he was so good. I couldn't take him out of my lineup.
The only problem is, do you think next year he'll do the same? Because he broke Barry Sanders' rushing touchdown record. Do you think you can trust? Will you draft a Jamal Williams next year?
I probably, unless it's really low. And that was the hard part that I struggle with. Do I play him every single week, or do I sit him over some other player like a Mike Evans or something like that? Or Chris Godwin. I was always wrestling between Chris Godwin's or Jamal Williams.
Oh, Chris Godwin looked good that last game.
Yeah, but would you start him over Jamal Williams? That was the one thing I always had to wrestle with.
Yeah. So, you look at certain points during the season, right? There was a point in one of my leagues where Tommy and I are in. I traded Jamal Williams for Ezekiel Elliott. Because I was like, at least I can get a consistent 12 to 14 points. Jamal Williams is going to get surpassed by DeAndre Swift. So I traded him. I would say that was the turning point for that particular league. Because if I had kept Jamal Williams, I would have made the playoffs and hopefully have gone further in the championship.
Yeah. For me, a lot of times I lost in that first round of playoffs on that league that Jimmy and I were talking about. I had a stud team. Chris Godwin disappointed me. Jamar Chase disappointed me, as well as DeAndre Hopkins. Those guys really lost it for me.
Yeah, but you only lost.
He was good in the beginning, and then he had a bad ending. But he was good. Right when he got back after the 6 weeks, he was good. Hey, one we got to say is all those guys who got Deshaun Watson, that didn't pay out. So I was very happy with that.
Yeah. Hey, Jed, I'm glad Jimmy just mentioned this. Did I tell you how much I lost in the first round of the playoffs? You know how much I lost by?
How much?
0.01.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
All he needed was Christian Watson just needed to catch 1 yard. And then from that point on, Aaron Rodgers, it was a 1 yard catch. I said, I got it. Penalty flag. I said, oh my gosh.
Yeah, fantasy is great. Well, so was it the Walter White League? No, it was my work league. So it was in my work league where I told you guys, Austin Eckler, he came through with that huge Monday night game. And the other guy had Herbert, and Herbert had hardly anything. And so that was what turned it around for me.
Well, even your Walter White League, right? You were projected to lose in that championship.
Yeah.
But when that Buffalo game happened, that's how you ended up winning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had a 22% chance to win because he still had Herbert playing, right? I think.
Yeah.
No, he had Burrow.
He had Burrow.
Yeah, he had Burrow. So he probably would have won. But you never know. I was up by 12, I think. So it I don't know. And I still had the field goal kicker. So you never know.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of Buffalo as well, you know who I think is the most overrated player? Stephon Diggs. He's such a disappointment a lot of times. I mean, he has a couple of great games and he just disappears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. I guess. I chalk some of that up to Allen. I feel like Allen had a really up and down year, and I think some of it was related to injury. Yeah, but he wasn't as consistent as he was.
Once he went down, I think Herbert had the ribs, but once he went down, I think Gabe Davis was supposed to break out this year, and he didn't. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Isaiah McKenzie was okay. Stephon Diggs didn't have, but James Cook emerged. But you're right. The Allen did not have the best of seasons this year, especially for being the number one quarterback.
Which, by the way, Jim, actually, Jed, I'll go over to you. Players to watch for. As you were looking at all of that, who is someone you sitting there, man, you got to watch this player because come year 2, come year 3 next year, this guy's going to be a stud.
Yeah.
Well, I that's why I was saying I like Kenny Walker. I thought he looked good. I also like Damian Pierce down in Houston. I mean, I know towards the end there, I feel like they weren't using him quite right, but I thought, really good production. San Francisco, I'll go back to Ayuk. I had talked about Ayuk. He looked really good once they switched over to Purdy compared to Debo. And I know Debo's still amazing, but again, the injury concerns for me with Debo, just the way his running style, he just gets hurt a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I think players for me to watch out. Who's that third wide receiver for Minnesota? What's his name?
Oh,
KJ Osborne. KJ Osborne came on, right? Instead of Adam Thielen. So I can see him supplanting Thielen next year as that number 2 wide receiver. James Cook is somebody who's on my radar, is somebody to really kind of pay attention to in terms of really kind of like diversifying the offense as well too. And then you got Tony Pollard, who emerged as that number 1 running back. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to Ezekiel Elliott during the offseason.
Oh, they're gonna. I'm assuming they're gonna move on from him. But also your guy, Tommy Christian Kirk. With Trevor Lawrence picking it up, Christian Kirk looked pretty good again.
Trevor Lawrence, aren't you guys surprised? Like, I would say he started to emerge. Like, I would seriously consider him next year as my quarterback.
Definitely. The Jags have something going there. You really got to like what that coach is doing there. He seems to, what's the coach's name again from Philly? He seems to really like get the players, around him. So that's a good thing.
Remember, he made all those quarterbacks. He made all of those. Who was the guy who's fizzled out over Washington?
Yeah, Nick Foles, and then Carson Wentz. Yeah. And Tommy, your guy Cam Akers, I don't think you should give up. He had a couple good games there right at the end, and obviously still has something left in the tank. So he might come back next year.
Hey, look, I will say this to you right now. I'm still going to vote. I'm still going to pick him. I'm still going to bid on him. I still have high hopes in Cam Akers, but as you guys probably will also agree with me, who has shot up completely? Breece Hall of the New York Jets. I know he went down for injury. You need to watch out for him because I bet you he's going to be at least the first or second round. And Gabe Wilson over at the New York Jets as well too.
Gabe Wilson, who's that?
Gabe, who's the wide receiver? Wilson for the New York Jets.
Yeah, hold on, let me get his name. I know it's not Gabe Wilson, but.
Yeah, I forgot. I thought it was Gabe Wilson. Who is this guy? Wide receiver. You know what? We'll take a quick look at it in terms of what.
Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson. That's it.
Yeah, Garrett Wilson. Yeah.
Garrett Wilson. Ohio State. Now, at the same time, if the Jets decides that they want to trade for the Bears for Garrett Wilson, their number 1 draft pick, and a couple other picks, I like a Garrett Wilson.
Oh, did you guys hear the latest I heard was Indianapolis trading their pick to the Bears for the number 1 plus Michael Pittman plus future draft picks. I like that. I was like, dude, take that.
Yeah.
I hope the Bears. I mean, I think all of this talk about Fields not being their quarterback is all smoke, right? Yeah. So I really do hope that they end up trading that pick, getting some good players and draft picks out of it. I like if they can get 2 or 3 draft picks, that'd be great.
Yeah. Hey, I'll say this right here though. I really like CJ Stroud out of Ohio State who's coming out in this draft.
Really?
He's not being talked about because of what's his name coming out of Alabama's the guy everyone wants. But man, if you guys watch that Ohio State, even though they lost, Stroud looked like Fields. I mean, but with a better arm. So I don't know. I really like him. I'm not saying that I want the Bears. I think the Bears should go all in on Fields, but I think whatever team gets Stroud, look out for that.
The only thing they say about Stroud is he's very, very tiny. He's not a big guy.
Yeah, he's not as big, but he's not tiny. He's not Kyler Murray tiny.
Yeah. By the way, Harbaugh is staying in Michigan. Did you guys see that? Here in Denver. Yeah.
And by the way, a lot of times, let me ask you, Sean Payton, at the end of the day, where will Sean Payton end up in? Here's some of the coaching vacancies. Carolina Panthers, Indianapolis Colts, Denver Broncos, Houston Texans, Arizona Cardinals. At the end of the day, where will Sean Payton end up at?
I think you follow the quarterbacks. I don't think Peyton's going to go any place that doesn't have an established quarterback unless somehow he's linked with Brady and can bring him in. So the team I think is either Denver or Arizona, because in Denver, I think Wilson, especially after they fired the coach, you can see like it wasn't all on his shoulders for how bad everything was going. And then in Arizona, of course, you got Kyler Murray. So those are the two in my mind.
I also feel like Dallas is in play, right? Because of his relationship with Jerry Jones. You never know, right? Like if this coming week they lose to Purdy in San Francisco, they might just say, look, we're just going to bring in Sean Payton. Just going to go with it. So.
Yeah.
The only thing with Sean Payton going to Denver as well, too, he wants to bring Vic Fangio as his defensive coordinator. Vic Fangio was the head coach for the Denver Broncos. Now, at the same time, if Sean Payton goes to Dallas, Dan Quinn did an outstanding job for the Dallas defense over there as well, too. So, but Vic Fangio is a very good coach.
Well, most likely, my guess is that Dan Quinn's going to be a head coach next year. And then also DeMarcus Ryan,
DeMeco
Ryan is most likely going to be the coach, right? So I think you could take those two off the board because they're going to – I bet Ryan is going to end up going to Denver. And I think Dan Quinn is going to take like the Colts job or something like that. Nobody wants the Panthers job. That's a job no one wants.
All right, let me ask you to throw one name. I'm going to throw a name down to each one of you guys. You guys tell me what you think is going to happen with that particular player, all right?
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers.
He's going to stay.
I think he's going to leave. I mean, I don't know where he's going to go, but I think he's going to leave.
Tom Brady.
I think he's gone too.
He's gone, but I don't think he's going to retire.
Oh, yeah. Hey, he just got divorced. What else has got going on?
Yeah, he's got nothing to do.
Yeah, he's gonna.
He basically gave up his marriage for football, so there's no way that he's not gonna play.
Supposedly, his ex-wife is now dating her jiu-jitsu teacher, according to People Magazine.
You know where I think Tom Brady's gonna end up back at? New England.
Wow.
You think so?
No, that was something I said. Hey, look, Matt Jones is okay. Can you imagine Tom Brady says, you know what? We need each other. Let's just pair back up with each other.
I actually think he's going to end up going to the Raiders.
Oh, that would be a good spot for him, actually.
And actually, okay, so if he does go to the Raiders, I think we should all meet up in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
or something.
That would be a good landing spot for him because the Raiders, man,
got Devontae Adams, they got a good defense.
Josh Jacobs,
right?
Hey, Jacobs, we didn't talk about Jacobs. He was one of the surprises. He was solid, man. That guy was good.
If Tom Brady gets in, I think Darren Waller will be a lot better.
Oh yeah, for sure. But one thing I was going to mention, you talked about New England Patriots and Mac Jones. If you guys haven't read any of the stuff about Mac Jones, you should go look into it. It's kind of interesting because it's basically saying that the team really liked him. The problem is he had some problems with Belichick. And so it's interesting. The first time I heard a little bit of friction where it seems like Belichick's the lone guy, compared to the rest of the team.
Yeah.
Geno Smith.
He'll sign a 1-year contract with Seattle.
Yeah, he was another surprise. That was a guy, if you could have just rode him and been good at the quarterback position.
But Lamar Jackson, who is being represented by his mother.
I have no idea.
If I was Lamar Jackson, I would have played. I don't think Baltimore is going to work that hard to sign him this year. Either that or they're going to franchise him. And he'll be pissed when they franchise him.
Wow, that'd be crazy if they franchised him. Yeah, I don't know. I had read that when Roquan Smith got that huge contract, that was a big slap in the face to him, to Lamar. So I don't know.
No, yeah, totally, because he wanted that guaranteed money, and Roquan got a lot of that guaranteed money because I think Roquan got $45 million guaranteed, and that's what Lamar wanted something higher than that, like 50, 55, right? They said no to him.
Yeah. Hey, Roquan Smith is very good. I'm so disappointed the Bears got rid of him as well, too. But, hey, look, I totally understand it, even though the Bears have a lot of cap space. But Lamar Jackson, if you had a chance, where do you think is a good place for Lamar to go?
Hey, you know what? If he went to Houston, that could work out because they have a good running back. The Houston's better than people give them credit for.
Yeah.
And thank you to Houston for winning at the last game for us.
I think it's who's ever had cap space, right? You got to look. I don't even know who. Yeah. I should pull it up and see who has cap space, but whoever's got the most cap space is going to go out hard after him.
Yeah, Saquon Barkley.
I think he'll stay with the Giants.
Yeah.
If I were the Giants, I wouldn't sign him, but I think he'll stay with the Giants.
Daniel Jones.
Oh, he'll stay with the Giants. Who is that? Daba, the coach, really utilized him well. Did you see him in that last game? He broke a bunch of NFL records. So yeah, I think they'll stay with the Giants.
Yep. David Carr.
Derek Carr.
Ooh,
Oh, Derek
yeah,
Carr.
Derek Carr. I don't know where that's a tough one. And will he be a starter? That's the real question.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know who I bet will end up signing him? Somebody like the Carolina Panthers.
Or Washington
Yeah.
Commanders.
Yeah, one of those guys who, or maybe the Colts are going to draft somebody. But yeah, I could see Panthers or Washington signing him.
Or even New Orleans Saints, because a lot of times they've been a little iffy with some of their quarterbacks too.
Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Wow, that's tough. And I mean, basically, it depends on what San Francisco does, right? If San Francisco somehow wins, then Garoppolo's done and Purdy's the guy.
Yeah.
But, assuming he loses either this week or next, then, yeah, I don't know.
Don't you think Purdy's actually decent, right?
Oh, he's good. He's not just
Yeah.
decent. He's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
He's had multiple touchdowns in every single game. That's insane. He's had two or
if
more
Trey
touchdowns.
Lance was doing the same thing, you would have been like, he's a superstar.
That's
right?
probably the better question. What's going to happen to Trey Lance? That guy's probably gone.
Yeah.
Ezekiel Elliott, because we all know
He's
Tony
gone.
Pollard is
He's
the
gone.
star over
He's
there.
gone.
He's gone.
Zeke
Yeah,
is
yeah,
gone. Yeah.
And Josh Jacobs.
I think you and we talked about it. Like, if it depends on Brady, right? My guess is if Brady stays on, he's going to want a good running game, and I can see a Jacobs, them putting up money for a Jacobs.
And then they're going to bring Leonard Fournette back.
Yeah.
They're going to sign Leonard Fournette as a backup.
See, Tampa Bay is in the play as well too, right? Because if Brady leaves, and did you see that they just let go of their offensive coordinator, Byron Leftwich? So it'll be interesting who they end up bringing in, because they're going to want a decent quarterback, because they still have Godwin and Evans there. So I can see a Derek Carr, a Jimmy G. I can see a Jimmy G coming in to a Tampa Bay situation.
I can see a Las Vegas signing Leonard Fournette as the backup, Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs, then wide receivers. You have Devontae Adams, and you sign either a Godwin or a Mike Evans.
Mm-hmm. Brady likes his guys. He has certain guys that he always goes to, right? So I could see him signing a 2-year deal, stay with the coach that he knows back from New England, making the last a run, because the other team he would have gone for is San Francisco, but San Francisco already has their quarterback.
Yep. Last thing, what do you think the Chicago Bears will do within their draft?
They better trade it, man. They better trade it and get a ton. Basically, trade down something in the top 10 maybe, and then get a ton of picks back and maybe even a player.
I agree with you. I think they're going to trade him. They're going to really go all in on fields. They're going to get one established, somewhat superstar player, and my guess is they're going to try to get like 3 draft picks additional.
And they're going to move to Arlington Heights, and we're all going to go watch a game there.
Yeah.
Well, they got that one guy as the new president who's
Exactly
pretty established.
And he's moved folks before, right? Like, he has the history of moving stadiums before, so he knows what to do.
And we're going to be an indoor stadium. That means when we wear our jackets, we can take it off in a climate-controlled stadium. Oh, my gosh, it's going to be so good.
Hey, Tom,
hey,
for your season tickets, do you get I wonder if you'll automatically get a transfer, but I wonder if you have to pay more for the new stadium.
You still have to pay the one-time licensing fee, the PSL fee.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sounds good to me, man.
All right. As we head into and we end in NFL season, playoffs are start. Wait, by the way, who is your Super Bowl picks as we wrap up?
Oh man, that's good.
Yeah. For me, I think it's going to be San Francisco versus the Chiefs. I think that's going to be my pick.
You know what? I like Cincinnati, even though it's very hard to come back, from a loss and back. I don't know. I really like Cincinnati this year.
They're playing Buffalo this week. Buffalo's a sentimental pick versus Cincinnati because of what happened.
Yeah, I think they'll get them though. I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see. It's an interesting. And you know what? Don't sleep on Dallas, man. I would not be surprised if Dallas beats San Francisco. Their defense, Dallas's defense they are peaking at the exact right time. And so don't be surprised if Dallas wins this weekend.
Yeah. I am hoping, I bet you there's a rematch. Cincinnati against San Francisco is what I think will happen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's interesting that none of us said the Eagles. That's kind of interesting.
I actually, if you ask me, I think the New York Giants will actually pull off a win against the Eagles.
Wow. Okay.
Dable is a pretty good coach, and Daniel Jones is really doing well. Okay, one last thing. Would you draft a Daniel Jones next year as your quarterback?
No.
Really? You guys wouldn't? I would
No.
really consider it.
Go for it. You can have him.
Daniel, I actually would.
Yeah. And another person who I am not drafting because I'm tired of drafting him, Terry McLaurin. I'm tired of drafting him.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Hey, Jim, make sure whoever you talk to, we are keeping at 4 because I need my team that I've worked so hard to keep together for the longest time.
Hey, so I'm going to 2 Super Bowl parties while they're here in Glendale. So one is the Gridiron Greats. I have to go to that one. Another one is a GQ party. And they're honoring Derek Jeter, Allen Iverson, and Deion Sanders.
That's awesome. We got to figure out what to wear, man.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna go find somebody that says, "Hey, do you want to join our fantasy podcast next year?" and as our special guest.
Yes, yeah, guest speaker, man.
That's you know cool. Who I have on my cell phone? I've been tempted to dial Marcellus Wiley because I met him at a couple of things when in other jobs.
Yeah,
and I saw it the other day. I was like, "Oh, I wonder if this cell phone still works." Yeah.
Well, we're going to begin next. Hey, let's get together and talk maybe Super Bowl or even during draft. We'll come back and talk a little bit more about drafts as well as rookies, all that free agents. When the free agent hits before the draft, let's come back on and talk about movement free agents.
Got to do next year too. Let's do one of these where we're all together in the same place.
Okay. Las Vegas when Brady goes over there.
No, actually, hey, Vegas is where Draft Town is this year. I'd go draft. Did you guys do Draft Town when it was in Chicago?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that was awesome. I did both years, had a blast. I would totally go back.
Yeah.
That's the end of April, right?
Yep.
Okay.
But I'll tell you this. I mean, one last thought is the Bears is going to dictate this draft.
Yeah.
Because they will determine how all of these other players will play their cards.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. Sounds good.